Welcome to Winfield Lakes. I'm here today fishing a midweek open match. I've done a few of these type of matches live on YouTube at places like the Oaks and Woodlands. Not been here for one of these before, so something a little bit different. Weather's just slightly on the change. It's starting to get a little bit cold, and in fact when the wind was blowing at me a bit stronger earlier, it's the first time on the bank this year I've actually felt cold and I had to put my fleece on. It's warmed back up a bit again now, breeze has dropped, but could make a little fishing a little bit tricky, not quite sure. Fish moving absolutely everywhere, to be honest though. The topping, I can hear them crashing, not just in my peg, all over the lake, so anything could happen today. It could fish really well, or that cooler weather could make it a little bit tricky. Mostly fishing for big old wise carp in here. It's a shallow silty venue but it's full of fish, but alongside them big carp there's some stockies, there's fish like barbel, skimmers, chub, even a very occasional F1. So I could catch anything, but the target really is them big old carp. Hoping for a really simple day, to be honest. I'm hoping I can fish a feeder to the island and then maggots and micro pellets in the edge. That's about all I really want to do if it's going to be good. But like I said, could be tricky, you don't know, and you never quite know with fishing. So I've set up a few other things. I've set up a short pole to fish hard pellets, set up a long pole to fish hard pellets as well, and just in case I've set up a shallow rig. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully I get loads of bites. If not, I'm sure it'll be interesting trying to nick fish on a few different methods and sort of build a good weight that way. But we're not far from the start. I'm going to go and get my nets in, sort a few last bits of bait out, and I'll come back to you, let you know how it's going a little bit later in the match. Right, we're about 45 minutes into the match now, and I actually decided, instead of starting off on the feeder like I was going to, I'd start on the short pole. It's quite noticeable, most of the fish I've seen move before the start have been within probably 5 metres of the bank. And this time of year, just before it starts to go a little bit cold, it's always a great time for catching fish both on the short pole and in the margins, almost as if the fish are wanting to come into the bank to feed before the cold weather comes and sort of they start to hibernate a little bit. It's turned out to be a really good decision. I've had 5 carp for probably £23, and to be honest, I can't see a great deal being caught, so a really nice start. A couple of things are really, really noticeable. First of all, like I said earlier, this is a very shallow and silty lake, and that can make the fish extremely difficult to catch. So one thing that's always important when it's like that, and especially with hard pellets, which are a heavy bait, is to feed very, very little as you possibly can to get a bite. So I started off just potting in sort of 4 pellets. And I sat there 10 minutes, never had a sign. And I thought, I'll just throw a couple in and make some noise. I threw 2 pellets in, they hit the water, and within 10 seconds my float went under, and I've hooked a fish. Now, that one actually came off at the net. Obviously decided it wasn't happy to spend the day in my keep net, but it was definitely in the mouth. So I've gone back in, sat there, sort of tapped my 4 pellets in, sat 7 or 8 minutes again, not a sign, threw 2 pellets in, buried instantly, caught a carp, £4. And it's noticeable how the fish are reacting to that noise. So you can't feed too much bait because you're going to foul up them. After that, I've started putting my rig in, let it settle, tap 3 or 4 pellets in straight on top of my float. And 2 of the fish I've caught have been within probably 30 seconds of going in. Fish have reacted to the noise. And I've had another one when I've threw my pellets and they've hit the water and it's gone straight under. And then one where I've sat maybe 3 or 4 minutes and caught it. But they're definitely reacting to that noise. And it's just now a case of being patient, not throwing pellets too often. I don't want to throw them, I want to give it at least 5, 6, 7 minutes after I've potted my bait before I throw any. But by putting my rig in first and feeding them a couple of pellets on top, that's also given me the chance to get one as soon as I've gone in. It's a really nice start. Hopefully I can keep catching on this for a little bit longer. Every bite's been a lovely positive, 100 mile an hour under, unmissable. I've had the 6 bites, obviously 5 carp, like I said. Oh, and then I've actually hooked one, so that was great timing. I've had the 5 that I'd caught, or 6 with this one that I've hooked as well, and I've lost one, not missed a bite. Fortunately, at the minute, not lost a fish. Oh, sorry, I have lost a fish, but it's only a little one. This one might actually be foul hooked. Always a problem on these shallow, silty venues. Even feeding very little, you probably will foul hook an odd fish. But it's just a case of being patient, feeding very little, and trying to make the most of every fish that actually comes into your peg. Try and convert those fish into a bite and into a fish in the net. Oh, yeah, I think this one is foul hooked, but no point in rushing with it. I'll just take my time, try and make sure it ends up in the net. After all, they all count. And there we go, we've got him. Only a little fish this time, probably £3, but again, it's just keeping up that really nice start. So, where I was hoping to maybe have an easy day on the feeder and in the edge, with a little bit of luck, what I can do is spend a lot of the match just fishing like this. Just lost a shot there, I'll just replace that. Keep picking off fish, keep putting them in the net, and hopefully late on in the match might get a really good run in the edge. But this could stop at any minute. Obviously I've got them other methods set up, like I said, long pole, feeder, and we'll just have to keep going, see how it goes. But I think my next bet will probably, if this dies on me, I'll look at fishing a feeder towards the island, and I might start pinging a few pellets on a long pole. I know the first time I ever came to this venue, I drew probably 2 pegs to the right of where I am today. I actually managed to win that match with about £170, and I caught that day on a long pole, just loose feeding pellets, 2 or 3 at a time. Probably about 2 weeks later than this, we just had a first frost. It was brilliant fishing that day. And again, they were really reacting to the noise. I could sort of put my rig in, it'd settle, I'd sit, not get a bite, fire 2 or 3 pellets in, and it'd go under, and I'd get one. So that's definitely another option, and looking at how the fish are reacting on this short line, that could be a good line. But before I do that, I'm going to stick on this. I'm not going to feed anything out there, because like I said, with the silt, I don't want too much bait in my peg. So I'm not going to feed that long pole. When this dies, or if this dies, hopefully it might not, I'll probably look at changing to the feeder, and then while I'm fishing that, I might start pinging an odd pellet on that long pole line to try and prep it for if I have to have a look. And there we go, there's another fish. You know, what a brilliant start. I mean, you can't ask for much more. I'm getting regular bites, putting fish in there. Not all big carp, to be honest. They're not the big old fish I thought I'd catch, but a lot of them are sort of £3. Again, that one's maybe £3. So that's probably putting me up to not a million miles off £30 at the minute. So a brilliant start with an hour of the match gone, not even an hour of the match gone, just slightly less. So brilliant start to the match. Hopefully it continues, and I'll get back to you in a little while and update you again. That is about an hour since the last update, and when I finished the last update I caught another 2 carp on that short line pretty quickly, probably within the next 10 minutes. Then I had maybe 10 minutes without one, and then I caught another, and then I sat without a bite another sort of 10 or 15 minutes and caught a little skimmer sort of this big. And I think this is where you need to sort of make a decision. You could sit there another 10 minutes without one, and then you might catch 5 in 5 chucks, but the fish stop moving about. They're not moving like they were earlier when I could see them close in, and I made the decision to come off it. But I've had a great start. I've caught not far off £40 there in the first sort of hour and 10 minutes. So a brilliant start, and I think that shows how vital it is. Just swam through my line there down the middle. Just shows how vital it is to start off on the right line. And I think I initially had planned on starting off on the feeder, like I said, but with them fish that were moving close in, I just decided to start on that short pole, and I think things like that are just vital. I mean, since I've gone on this feeder, I've had 4 casts, and I've had 1 small chub. Now, I'd have started on it, I could easily have missed out on all of them fish which I've caught on the short pole and got me off to such a good start. So definitely paying attention to what's happening in your peg and watching them fish topping is vital. Where they were moving, it's convinced me to start short. Obviously got off to that great start, but now this is my 5th cast now on this feeder, and I've had 1 small chub, and it's making me think it's not going to be the way to go. So like I mentioned before, when I've gone on this feeder, I've just started loose feeding the odd pellet on that long pole line, and I think I'll maybe have another 3 casts on this, just see if anything turns up, but at the minute it's not looking very good. I don't feel like I'm going to catch on it. I think if I was going to, I would have had one in them first 3 casts. So my next bet now is going to be that long pole, just loose feeding a few pellets and see how that goes. What that short pole line has done has just got me thinking about how I'm going to approach my edges. So one side I've got sort of just under 2 foot of water, and my plan was to pot in micro pellets and maggots. Now the other side, sort of 3 foot deep, it's a bit deep for that approach, and I was a bit unsure what I was going to do, but with that good start on the hard pellets and how they're reacting to the noise, I'm thinking about maybe throwing some hard pellets into my right where it's deeper, and perhaps when it comes to that time to start fishing in the edge, or just before when I want to prime it up, I might even throw hard pellets into my left a bit further out from the bank where I've got that sort of 2.5 to 3 foot of water. They just seem to react so well to the noise, and I feel like, do I really need to be potting in volumes of maggots and micros to draw them fish in, or are they going to come to that little plop of the pellets where they're going to be really, really easy to catch because there's not going to be a lot of bait there? And also, where I mentioned the silt can be a problem out in that open water, once I start coming in closer to the bank, I'm coming in onto a harder bottom, and the fish there are going to be much easier to catch. So I can feed them pellets, hopefully they'll come to the plop, and I'll be able to get bites quick, positive. I'm not going to foul hook them. So before I start thinking about dumping them maggots and micros in, I think that's probably what I'll do. Maybe halfway through I'll just start throwing a few 6mm pellets in, and then if I need to pot a volume of bait to draw them in, I can pot micros and maggots in any time, even if it's with an hour, even if it's with an hour to go. I want to do that and just try and drag the fish in if they won't come into them small volumes of pellets. But of course, the more bait I feed, probably the harder they're going to become to catch. But this feeder is definitely not looking like the way to go, and judging by how well I caught on that short line earlier, the fish are willing to feed, so if they were over there, I think I would have caught some. Obviously I mentioned the first match I ever fished here in my first update, I drew a couple of pegs to the right. The next one I fished after that, I actually drew about opposite here, and I managed to win that one as well. I had about, I think I had £147, and I caught nearly everything that day on the feeder. It was maybe a week or two earlier than this. It was just before I went away to the Preston Festival at Whiteacres. But on that side of the lake, I'm just going to have another cast. On that side of the lake, it's a little bit wider. Well, to be honest, it's a lot wider. Where I drew, it was probably half of this distance again, and perhaps that means the fish sit across there a bit more confidently with the distance between the anglers and themselves. But for whatever reason, I mean, today it's just not looking like this feed is going to work. So I'll have this cast. I might have another cast as well, and then I think I'm going to have a look at that long pole, just see if I can get some bites. And I think it's going to be a case of just trying to catch whatever I can up until the last couple of hours, when I'm sure I'll either catch again on that short pole or hopefully in the edges. But I'll keep just going for now. I'll see how this goes. Hopefully I might get a bite on it, but I'm already priming that long pole line up, and it's definitely not going to be long until I go on it. And fingers crossed, because I've just kept feeding a few pellets on it, they'll be there waiting. One thing that is noticeable as well is it's dropped much colder. I've had to put my fleece back on. The wind's in my face. That's actually making it a little bit awkward to feed them pellets on the pole, and I might have to look at probably potting some pellets there when I actually go and fish it, because that cattle's just not looking as accurate as I'd like it to be at the minute with this wind in my face. It's not putting a massive amount of ripple on the water, and I'm not sure you'll be able to pick up how windy it actually is on the camera, but I think the island's probably sheltering the wind off the water itself, but I can feel it hitting me, and it's getting up quite a bit now. So I'm going to go and get on with it, and hopefully I'll come back to you soon and things will have improved and I'll be getting some bites again. But can't see a lot being caught. I've obviously had that really good start, so hopefully start catching a few again soon. that is us now with about just over, well, about 2 hours of the match left. And obviously I had that great start shot that I spoke about earlier, and then I'd gone on the feeder and it wasn't very good, and I had a few more casts after that last update and I never had a bite. I caught that one little chub that I had on it, and that was it. So then I had a look on the long pole. First drop in I got a little stocky, about a pound. Then I foul hooked 2 carp, which was frustrating, but obviously there was fish there, so that was a good sign. But then I couldn't really catch anything on it. I had a couple of skimmers. I did get a carp, about 4 pound. A couple of eyed. I missed some bites, and it just didn't seem right. And I couldn't really fish it very well with the conditions. The wind had got up a bit. It got cold. And the only odd fish, I couldn't see anyone catching a lot, but the odd fish that I could see getting caught were being caught short still. So I came and had another look short. And I've managed to catch another, I don't know if I had 3 or 4, but not big fish. I had one probably 7 pound, and the rest again were them 3 to 4 pound fish, but put a few more in the net, and it was a case of being really patient, sitting and waiting for a bite. And again, throwing them couple of pellets in was absolutely brilliant. I caught every fish doing that, unbelievably, but, oh, there's a fish. It was a case of doing it at just the right time, and it was sort of when you got an indication there was a fish in your peg and you never caught it, that was time to throw a couple of pellets. And that was either an indication on your float, or quite often you'd get a bubble pop up, or a couple of bubbles on that silty bottom. You knew that there was a fish there, and you didn't catch it, and you'd give it sort of 60 seconds, throw your pellets in, and you'd get an immediate bite. But again, I just got that little run and then nothing. So I've gone back out on the long pole, and it seems now that there's quite a few fish there. I've had 2 or 3 little stockies like this one. I've had an F1, which there's very, very few in the lake, but I did get one. And I think I've also had 3 carp on that, a couple of skimmers, and I just seem to be getting regular bites. So I'm going to keep going with this for a little bit, try and put a few in the net before I hopefully get a good finish down the edge. Started throwing some hard pellets in now down to my right, where it's sort of 3 foot deep, and I'm hoping that's going to be good. If not, I haven't started feeding anything down to my left yet, because I'm a bit undecided whether I want to throw in some hard pellets in the slightly deeper water, or pot in them maggots and micros where it's a bit shallower next to the bank. So I'll probably make my mind up on that once I've actually had a go down the side where I've been throwing some pellets. Oh, I've just pricked a fish then. There's definitely plenty of fish out there now. Getting regular indications, I'm missing a few bites. Almost feels like maybe I could catch 1 or 2 shallow, but the peg's so shallow I'm not sure that'll work. But if I keep getting these few indications, I'm missing a few bites. I might just have a quick look shallow and just see if I do get a bite. Again, just hard pellets out there, but I'm feeding a little bit more regular, and a little bit more. Now that is going to cause an odd problem with foul hookers, but there's other fish feeding out there where on the short line I didn't catch any other fish out there. I've had some hide, I've had some skimmers, obviously had them little stockies and F1. My bait's being eaten, and I need to make sure that I'm keeping some bait in my peg to draw a carp in, and that is where it becomes real sort of, you've got to judge what you're doing, because too much bait and foul hookers will be an absolute nightmare. But if you don't feed enough, obviously them smaller fish that are there are just going to mop everything up, and you're probably never going to catch a carp. Again, it's funny out there, they don't seem to be reacting to the noise quite the same. I'm not firing them in and getting an instant bite, but when I get an indication, I seem to get constant indications until I catch one. And I've had quite a few fish. I've got a real light rig on out here, because obviously shorter where I'm potting my bait in and really setting a trap and waiting for a bite. I want my rig nice and stable. But out there I'm loose feeding my pellets, I've got some bait falling through the water, and I've got a much lighter spread out rig. to try and mimic the fall of them pellets. And I've had quite a lot of bites either as my rigs just fell and settled, or just after I've lifted and dropped it. In fact, I would say the vast majority of my bites. I think that's another little stocky carp. Whoops. But beautiful little fish. Again, nice to just be putting some fish in the net. Lovely little fish there. If I can keep putting some fish in the net, get a big finish at the end, I'll be doing all right. I would think I've probably got possibly £70 now, or close to £70 I would think. So nice fishing, getting loads of bites now, so certainly no complaints, and a very enjoyable day's fishing. So I'm going to go again now, try and catch a few more fish, and hopefully next time I come back here I'm in the edge, the fish have arrived, and I'm getting a really, really good finish to the match. So that's it for now, but I'll catch back up with you very soon. So there is about 40 minutes of the match left, and it's went well, to be honest. Obviously I had that really good start short, and then the next hour was a bit slow. I went on obviously on the feed. I had that one tiny little chub, no bites on that, which surprised me. I thought that'd be worth a few fish. And then I had a look on the long pole, and that wasn't right. There was definitely some fish there, and I think I caught a carp and a stocky and foul hooked a couple, but I just couldn't present my rig right. I couldn't feed as accurately as I wanted with a catapult, and I couldn't present my rig well enough with the wind. And in hindsight, it was a bad move to try and do that at that time. I probably should have replumbed another short line, maybe moved out of my peg. I think I would have caught a few more that second hour. But then after that, when I come back short, obviously I caught 3 or 4. It was a bit slow, but I did put a couple in the net, and then the wind dropped and I went back out long and had a really nice run, loads of bites off all sorts of fish. I had some skimmers, a couple of eyed, a chub, an F1, some little stockies, and I think I caught probably 5 carp on that line. Just loose feeding a few pellets with a catapult, and fishing a nice light rig, strung out. I was getting regular bites. I could keep feeding a little bit of bait, and it was very enjoyable fishing. And then I seen odd fish get caught in the edge, So I've had a look in that right hand side where it was a bit deeper, and I had one bite, hooked a small carp, probably £2, that come off at the net. Another one that obviously didn't want to spend the remainder of the match in my keep net, but it just didn't feel right, so I decided to big pot some micros and maggots down to my left. And they did just start colouring that up a little bit, and I've gone in there and caught 3 reasonably quick, 3 in maybe 15 minutes. 2 about £5 and 1 probably £10. And at that point I've decided I better put another net in, so I've gone up the bank, got another net, and when I've come back I've not actually had a bite. Camera wasn't recording when I caught them few, so I was sort of hoping I might catch a little run once I've put my camera back on in this edge, but no such luck yet. Putting that net in must have just upset them a bit. Hopefully they come back in. At the minute, it's not looking like there's any fish there. Just try a little refeed. It's really strange how you can get up, put a net in like that, and the fish just absolutely hate it. I think if I've hooked my keep net there. I'm thinking if I don't get one off this feed, I'm probably going to have to feed again with a big pot. See if I can draw some fish in, maybe just come off it for 5 minutes. Let's drop that one in from a bit of a height, make some noise, try and let some fish know it's there, and that'll hopefully pull some back in. Yeah, I'd like to think I might get another 3 or 4 on this in the final 40 minutes or so. So I'll come back to you after the match probably now and just let you know how this final half an hour's gone. But hopefully I can catch a few more fish. Well, I've had a little bit of a camera malfunction at the end of the match, and I couldn't come to you from the bank with the results of the match and a little bit of a roundup of the day. So you join me in my garage where I'm going to just run through exactly how the match finished, what I finished up with, and also I just want to touch on the rigs that I used. So first of all, the last 45 minutes, it really didn't go to plan. Obviously last time I updated you, I think I'd caught 3 down the edge and then I'd put my other net in, and it's really gone downhill from there. I've caught 1 more fish, and that was with sort of a minute of the match remaining. So whether putting that net in spooked the fish, they've not been willing to come back in, and maybe they've just come back in at the end of the match. It did colour up a bit. I've seen one, caught one, and I didn't have time to get back in. I filled my pot, went to ship out, and that was it. The match was finished. So a disappointing end really after what had been a really good day. Really good fishing, loads of bites. Probably had 30 carp from a 10-ounce stocky up to a 10-pound carp, and really enjoyed the day. So it was just a little bit of a letdown, that sort of little spell at the end, but again, like I said, great fishing, really enjoyed it. Now before I get on to any results, I just want to quickly touch on my rigs. I know people will ask about rigs. I was going to show them after the match, but obviously never got a chance with the camera not working properly. So first of all, my short pole rig. Now, on this line, I'm obviously potting in very little bait. I need to be really accurate, keep that rig nice and still. So in 3 foot of water, I've fished with a 4x14 float. That's a carbon stem,
a slim body and a 2mm thick hollow tip in it. That hollow tip, just thick hollow tip, just allows me to distinguish between liners and proper bites. You don't want to be striking and foul hooking these big carp. Elastic wise, a 14 to 16. Soft enough that the fish don't charge off too much, but plenty of power there so I can control them, get them in the net nice and quick. And then main line, I fished 0.17, again, just strength, durability, don't want it letting me down. And a 6-inch hook length of 0.15 to a size 16 hook with a band on for a hard pellet. So dead simple, all about keeping that rig nice and still, right over the top of my bait. And I've just shot at that with a nice simple bulk of number 9 shot, sort of 8 inches from the hook. So nothing complicated, but just does the job I want. It sits there, shows up my bites nice and positive, and doesn't move. I can keep it nice and accurate on top of them few pellets that I'm potting in. And then obviously I've just threw them 2 or 3 over to make a little bit of noise, to draw a fish in and to sort of get myself a bite. Now out on the long pull, where I did catch quite a few fish, a lot of smaller fish and a few carp, I've fed the same bait, but my rig has been slightly different. I've the same lines, I've had the same hooks, same hook length, but the float, although it's the same pattern, I've only used a 4x10 float. My reason for that being, I'm feeding a bit different now. I'm feeding more regular, I've got bait falling through the water, and it's not quite as accurate as when I'm potting it in. So, I want my rig to be able to fish through the water, and I have caught a couple of fish on the drop actually. But what that allows me to do is just mimic the feed that I'm firing in with a catapult, and just present the bait really well and really naturally. Although maybe not quite as stable, I'm not looking to fish like that. I haven't got that tight pile of bait to present my rig over. I'm working my rig a lot more and laying it in. And that is the reason for that lighter float. And that I've just shotted with 5 number 10s, just spread right through the rig. So really simple again, but trying to achieve something a little bit different. So, on to the results. Actually finished up with £126 and some ounces. Can't remember exactly what I had, and that was good enough for second. I've actually been just pipped, £129 won the match, so just short of that. And obviously that little spell at the end, last 45 minutes, has really cost me. But brilliant day's fishing. Like I said earlier, I don't get to Winfield as often as maybe I'd like to, but great venue. Since Andy, the owners, took over there, he's done brilliant. He's built, well, not built another lake, but he's remodelled one of the other lakes, restocked that. So the fishing on there is a bit different, smaller fish. So I'll hopefully try and get back and do a video on that lake at some point. He's just done great with the place. A bit of restocking, got some sort of different year classes of fish, from smaller carp right up to the great big old ones, which provide loads and loads of bites for everyone. So if you've never been there, great venue to take a look at. I'm definitely looking forward to going back soon, and I hope you've enjoyed the video. Like always, please like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll be back again very, very soon.